All right, everybody. As we begin tonight, for those who do not know, Justice and Beyond has been organizing now for about 9 years. As we started to fight for justice for Chief Justice Bernadette Johnson. And so we have continued that fight in many fashions and many forms on many fronts and areas and many focuses, particularly the areas of criminal justice, youth justice, environmental justice, health justice, and housing, and education. And so we are operating now under the governing model of what we call our pillar system. What that means is there are organizations and individuals that have signed on to participate in the development and the vision casting and the planning of Justice and Beyond. And have said they want to be a part of that. We want to add to that number. We want more people to come along and say that they will also be a part and want to be a pillar of Justice and Beyond. If that is you, just let us know. We'd love to have you at our noon meeting. We've added some as of late and want to add even more people to be a voice for those who may feel powerless or feel victims of injustice, especially African descendants within the city of New Orleans and beyond. And so with that said, know that we come together to create a space that is filled with peace and love and respect. And so we can disagree, but we don't want to ever disrespect one another. And so as we continue our discussion tonight, we want to talk about this season of campaigns that we've been in, particularly District 93 and the criminal court judge race that many of us have heard much about. We may even get into a little bit of discussion about the recall as well too, because we've got some incredible panelists tonight, Miss CC Campbell-Rock and Jeff Thomas, who are very informed on these two issues and have a lot to say about them, and will give us opportunity to ask questions as well too. So we're just gonna have a little talk about what's been going down and what's been happening, and why the climate is as it is right now, and what really is impacting the things that we're seeing that bring about the outcomes in the elections and the recall that we're seeing right now. So with no further ado, let me introduce to some and present to others CC Campbell-Rock, who is no stranger to Justice and Beyond, and neither is Jeff Thomas. Let's open it up with just some conversation. CC, what's on your heart tonight as you just introduce and say hello to everybody?
Hi, everybody. It's CC Campbell-Rock, your resident scribe. What's on my heart tonight? Really, you know, the Nashville mass murder is just way over the top for me. I have children. My heart is just heavy and I wish at some point we can get rid of assault weapons. I fail to understand why we have military weapons on our streets and that legislators allow that to happen. That's one thing. The other thing is every election is very important. I was looking at the pre-filed bills. I wish everyone would go and look at the pre-filed bills for this upcoming Louisiana legislative session, which starts on April the 10th. They got some bills in there to make your head swim. I mean, we're talking about what goes on in other states in terms of the attack on education. They've got a bill that's pending that's going to ask local school districts to determine which textbooks are the correct textbooks for our children. To me, that's a veiled way of saying, you know, we want to make sure there's no, you know, Black history in there, no LGBT. That's another thing. African-American history. I was just asking my grandson, what did you learn? Or do you have African-American history on a regular basis? He said, we had it last month. I said, oh, Black History Month. And I was very encouraged because they learned about Black inventors, but are we not Black 24/7? I just feel like we're being erased from American history, and that's another challenge. The Louisiana legislature is another challenge. In October, we have the election for governor, lieutenant governor, treasurer, all of these, Secretary of State. You're talking about the recall. I think I said on WBOK, I think we need to recall Carl Audouin. I hope he doesn't run again, because what he's done in terms of jimmying with the vote automatically in terms of the recall, trying to help the recall go forward, it's just an abomination. So I guess politics is on my mind, and I'm really concerned about where our state is heading.
Thank you, CC. Always appreciate you being here. Those concerns are very valid. Very much so. Jeff Thomas, Think 504. We always appreciate you being here and your wealth of knowledge and
My
expertise.
boss, one of my bosses.
Yeah. My boss at times too. Jeff, welcome.
We don't see him,
You're
actually.
not here yet? Let me. CC, I'm gonna text him right now and see where he is. I sent him the link earlier. Hold on.
While Reverend's doing that, I just wanted to, I know we're supposed to be talking about District 93 and the runoff, I guess, for criminal district court. And I would like to hear what the pillars have to say about all of this. It's very important. Both of those races are important. All races are important. What can I say? I mean, we've gotten to a crescendo. If you haven't noticed, I've noticed that there's a new world order that's being constructed. And people like Trump are bringing it. We see it in Israel where the people are protesting. We see it in Mississippi where they're trying to take over the state legislature is trying to leapfrog over the power of the Mississippi state, the court, Mississippi State Supreme Court. They're trying to leapfrog over them and take their power. So now you've got one branch of government trying to erase the judiciary. So that's another issue that we have to contend with. We have to be watchful. That does not happen here, cannot happen here. That's the
Thank
pillars.
you, CC.
Yeah.
Did you get it?
I just texted the link. He should be here in any second. And I missed your question, CC. I'm sorry. I was occupied with trying to get that to Jeff.
What I was saying is the bigger topic, not the bigger topic, but we have all kind of things. We being the people, we the people have got to be concerned with what's going on in politics because they're doing too many things. You're doing too much, like the young folks would say. And I was mentioning the fact that in Israel, Netanyahu is trying to subvert the power of their court. In Mississippi, the state legislature is trying to leapfrog over the Mississippi State Supreme Court so that they won't have a say in any laws that the legislature passed. It's just very scary. Hi, Jeff. There he is.
Hey, CC.
Hey, Jeff.
Gang. How are you guys? Pastor Manny, everybody, Brooke.
Good to see
I see lots of people that I know. I'm driving, so I probably shouldn't be scrolling.
Yes, please don't. But Jeff,
Need you alive.
Cece gave us a wonderful introduction, and I just simply asked her what was on her heart tonight as we look at the world as it is, and the world of politics, and the world of politics in New Orleans, and as it relates to all of those things and the world. So, as a way of introduction, what's on your heart tonight, Jeff?
Oh, wow. Well, I guess I'm focused on going out to this Bayou Phoenix event tonight, which is going to be transformative for, I think, our city. I think it's really going to be the one true economic development tool that can make New Orleans a great place, the great place it can be. It's going to transform New Orleans East. It's going to provide jobs. It's gonna that part of town is the only part of town where we can grow, where we have land to develop. And this development, I'm privy to having seen what's going to happen. And since you guys won't be able to be on it, I'll give you some background or some of the features of it. I'm sure you've seen in the media that it's going to be fields with, the idea is that I don't know if you guys know, but you know, this travel athletics for kids is a big thing. Basketball, baseball, flag football. You know, kids travel around the country and play in these tournaments. And I mean, it is a $10 billion enterprise, and nothing happens here in this area. Although, for example, you know, our biddy team, the Nord biddy team, just won the national championship. I think 7 and 8 year olds. It's a phenomenal feat. You know, you haven't heard about it. You're going to hear about it on WBOK and Think 504. But they had to travel to, I think they were in Pittsburgh. But, you know, so you have, in this case, 10 young kids, their families, coaches traveling. So, you know, you multiply that times 100 times all the sports. It's going to be just a phenomenal economic thing. I don't want to, you know, get us too far afield in that, but that's what I'm excited about. It's going to make our city a better place.
That's good, Jeff. I'm glad you went into it because when I saw it, and we don't, you know, we're going to have another discussion about this, but how do you overcome the stigma of the crime in the East as that area begins to be redeveloped? How do you deal with that? The fact that so many people don't even want to drive out there and
Sure.
fearful of their lives. You just increase the police presence so that you now have an area that tourists are protected by, or
But I'm glad you said that, Pastor. You know, there have been more shootings in New Orleans West, more murders in New Orleans West than there are in New Orleans East. Part of the narrative, I think, is a destructive factor in our city, and that we think, you go across the canal, people are dying. I mean, bodies on the street. I mean, that's just part of this narrative that is being pushed out there. But more people die in Algiers, Central City, Gentilly, and everywhere else uptown than in New Orleans East. Now, I'm not saying that we should discount the crime that happens there, but I think context is important. And it is something that's going to have to be addressed. But I think this is going to address it. Part of the issue is that there is no economic opportunity. You know, nothing kills a bullet but a job. Great priest in Oakland once said. And I believe that once the jobs come online, they're going to be young jobs for young people. I just think people don't have hope. People are desperate. And this is going to be a beacon of hope. This is going to transform people's minds and opportunities and lives. And so I think that crime is going to go down as a result of this development.
Yeah, and I think maybe the media may see this as an opportunity to change its tone and narrative that it presents to us all the time. So
that's right.
Take ability for that. Yeah.
Listen, listen. It is the narrative. You know, Little Woods. I mean, New Orleans East has gotten so far west. When I was growing up, New Orleans East was, you know, past Downman. Now they're considering it's stuff past Elysian Fields, New Orleans East. It's just the demographics have shifted, and I think it's just an attempt to castigate the biggest Black home ownership block. Listen, also, more tax dollars come out of New Orleans East, property tax dollars come out of New Orleans East than anywhere else in the city. It is a bedroom community. I mean, we got to stop. I'm sorry. I'm on a rant, and this is where we're going tonight. Another meeting.
We will have another conversation about this though, because we do need to talk about that development, and people need to be informed. So maybe we can get some other people in on that conversation. Look, as a way of kind of launching us, when we consider the District 93 race and the criminal court judge race, let me just ask you, if you had 3 words, let me start with CC, 3 words to describe to somebody and frame these elections, what would they be? CC, give me 3 words and then tell us why.
All politics is local. what is done in Baton Rouge is done to us here. I know that's more than 3, but what can I say?
Go ahead.
So yeah, I think it's very critical that we choose the right person. As I said on WBOK, during the forums that I hosted there, I would like to elect people who are public servants, not politicians, but I know they're all politicians, but there's such a thing as being a politician and being a public servant at the same time. I mean, we pay their salaries. So yeah, public servant is what I'm looking for.
Okay.
And a
Okay.
candidate.
Okay. Good. Thank you. What about you, Jeff?
Can I ask another question though,
Yeah.
Ralph?
Yeah,
I
please.
asked Jeff a question. Is that event being live streamed at all or taped?
It
Jeff?
is. I can, when I stop, I'll put the link in the chat so everybody here can see it.
Great. Great. The
Yeah.
other thing, and I'm going to ask Pastor Manning, could you invite some of the Bayou Phoenix people to Justice and Beyond to a forum so we can all hear what they have to say as well? I mean, I'm going to listen to BOK now. I don't think I won't, but
Thank you.
but I just think that the pillars and the people who are on, the Justice and Beyond meetings, these forums need to hear directly.
Yeah.
Reverend Manning.
And I think we need to be able to have such meetings that Jeff is headed to out at Franklin Avenue in other parts of the city, so that we create the understanding that what goes on in the East is about all of New Orleans and not just about the East. Jeff, what were you gonna say?
Yeah. I'm crossing the high rise. Sometimes I lose reception. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So my 3 words, dark money ruled the day. My analysis is I saw Ed Shervin, a good friend of mine, on Channel 6 saying that endorsements didn't work in this election, that the endorsements failed. And my question to him is why? And he's absolutely right. When you look at, if we can examine the criminal court race with Deidre Pierce Kelly, Leon Roche, and Simone Levine. And then also, when you look at Alonzo Knox and Fox Rich in District 93, you guys gave me the privilege of hosting that forum for them, and I thought it was really good. It's my first time really seeing Alonzo Knox. But back then, when we hosted that forum, Alonzo Knox was kind of down, way down in the polls, didn't have any money, was kind of floundering. The person who everybody thought would win, the leading contender was Fox Rich, because she had the endorsements of several city council people, the outgoing Representative Royce Duplessis, and but then there was a shift in the dynamics in that race. Suddenly, Alonzo Knox had $500,000 at his disposal, which came from outside influences that are impacting our elections. And Norris Henderson and Vogt are the people behind it. And I'm not disparaging them. I'm not saying anything negative. I'm just an observer. And what happened was Alonzo Knox went from, having his first campaign finance report, he had, I think, $4,000. And then his last one hasn't come out yet, but the second one he had $300,000. And so that outside money poured into his campaign. The same thing happened in the Deidre Pierce Kelly race. She was, she got, I also endorsed her, full disclosure, but she got the endorsement of just about every elected official in town, short of the mayor and the governor and the DA. Just you name it, an elected official endorsed her. And she was the leading contender by and away, large, polls had her off winning 55 Some had her in the runoff with Simone Levine. But, you know, as it turned out, her one of her opponents, Leon Roche, a fine purple knight who I have nothing against, but you know, I'm me being a St. Augustine graduate, I have nothing bad to say against about that young man, except that his campaign also went from, you know, a few $100s in the bank to $350,000. And so those two candidates who had the endorsements of the business, of the political class, went from leading contenders and out fundraising their opponents to suddenly being way behind in money and money being spent. Now, it's okay, in my estimation, to have money flowing into campaigns, right? But money is the mother's milk of all campaigns. But these dark money campaigns tend to be, and are only, all we've seen them be, are smear campaigns. They are negative campaigns only. They attack what I view as vulnerable opponents. Now, certainly, also, Ms. Kelly was a flawed candidate in the sense that she had some questionable things that happened as a young person, and I think that came back to bite her. Additionally, same is true about Sybil Fox Rich. She also had some, you know, was involved in I think a bank robbery in North Louisiana. So these are also flawed candidates, but they were, I'm just talking about the transformation in their races. They went from having all the endorsements, having the money, and leading, being the odds-on favorite, to, you know, not winning. And that I attribute solely to this outside dark money coming into our campaigns, our local campaigns, and completely transforming what happened. Listen, we saw that happen. We saw that happen in the Public Service Commissioner's race when Devontae Lewis went from, you know, nobody much heard of him to, you know, suddenly, you know, we fought a great race in that race, but suddenly having, you know, $500,000 at his disposal. And the same thing happened, a vulnerable local incumbent in this case lost. Now, listen, I think politics is a rough and tumble sport, and what happened. I'm just observing that we're seeing millions, literally millions of outside dollars coming into our local campaigns. These are people, for example, I'll give you one more piece of information that I think is critical. The money that went into the, I want to make sure I get it right. It was the campaign against Deidre Kelly was raised 3 years ago, according to the campaign finance reports. They had that money sitting in the bank, and they unhurled it in this campaign. I just wonder how this is. I don't know that this liberal, it's Soros money. This is liberal money that's supposed to help candidates, local candidates, overcome odds. And I think, though, I'm wondering if this is the intention of those funders. But I just noticed it, and I'm just presenting it to you guys.
Thank you, Jeff. You make some very good points there. Cece, weigh in on this. What are your thoughts about this?
Well, my thoughts are, you know, yeah, I agree with Jeff. There's dark money, but how do we know that dark money didn't exist prior to this race? In other words, I'm very disenchanted with a lot of these, the alphabet soup of PACs, if you will, because, like, for example, the last time Carl Audouin ran for Secretary of State, there were some people who I really revere and look up to, involved in some PACs, that endorsed this man. I mean, the fact that he was taking over for Schroeder and was right under Schroeder before Schroeder was kicked out because of some sexual picadillo, should have told us who this man was, you know, and now we see what he's doing in terms of recall. What won't he do? I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but I would say what he did was at the very least unethical in terms of, oh, well, you know what? Don't have to worry about the 53,000 recall petitions. Let's just break it down to the 42,000. And we're going to say that there are 30,000 inactive voters. And, oh, yeah, you're on the inactive list, but you still can vote. Read between the lines. No, you cannot, especially if you have not voted in the federal election and two subsequent federal elections and some all kind of mumbo jumbo. The website is a disgrace for the Secretary of State. I'm just saying, I'm very disappointed with the PACs. You know, we need a PAC that's going to really be about the people. I guess I'm just in la la land because I'm asking for something maybe that doesn't exist, huh, Jeff?
Well, I hear you on that, CC. I think you're right. One of the things that concerns me, though, is that I think part of the problem that we're having is it's tough to get people to offer themselves up for public service. How do we get people who are going to want to run for office if they're going to be subject to smear campaigns, if they're going to be subject to people talking about stuff that happened, you know, in Deidre's case when she was a college student. Now I'm not in any way justifying what she did, but I just think that it's hard enough to get good, honest, hardworking people to offer themselves for public service. By God, you don't make a lot of money at it. By God, it's a lot of work. It's oftentimes unforgiving. People expect you to move mountains, and when you don't, then you are castigated. And so I'm wondering, though, the impact of this outside money, I just think that it's intended to help local candidates overcome odds. It's intended to help liberal, local, progressive, local candidates do better. And I see it not happening that way in a couple of cases. It's just an observation on my point.
Now, let me ask you this. You just touched on this a little bit, but these races got very nasty and malicious and mudslinging at times. Did it go too far, in your estimation? Did it go further than what we normally see? And if so, why?
Well, I think that's what you see when dark money hits campaigns. That's the role of dark money. That's what it does. That's what we've seen. I see Betty shaking her head no, but I'm telling you, my experience has been that when this outside money comes in, it doesn't have a positive. It's smear campaigns. It's what we've seen. I could go from state to state and look at it, and I can tell you that certainly let me just talk about New Orleans. In New Orleans, the impact of this outside money has, in my estimation, it is going too far. But you know, listen, no, maybe not. Maybe it's not going too far. I think when you're running a campaign, everything that you did is out there. Everything, all of your deeds and misdeeds in life, you offer yourself for public service. People have a right to judge you based upon what you've done, and it's how people determine whether or not you are going to be a good representative. That's one thing. But when it changes, I think when it becomes nasty in tone and more than just observational, more than just talking about facts, but characterizing people. I'm kind of torn. I'm not sure. I think that's a good question. I gotta think about it more.
Here, I mean, and Cece, both of you, we know that this race between Fox Rich and Alonzo Knox got just very ugly. And to me, as I look at it, it went way too far. Called out some, obviously, I mean, I couldn't agree with you more. Anybody who runs for office knows that they're going to come out to use against you or have potential to do that at any time. But I think, especially in a city full of Black folks, and when Black folks are running against each other, you've got to hold some stuff back, or you should, if you're operating in decency, and not hit below the belt, so to speak. I did. That's just my thought. So I'm interested in what you all think about that particular race and the involvement of what some would call the establishment, is not pulling some punches.
Well, I'm going to agree with Jeff. I'm going to agree with you, Reverend. The mudslinging is not something that's in our culture. We traditionally didn't do mudslinging here. Now all of a sudden here it is, and it could be dark money at fault for the mudslinging. But let me just say this about Miss Kelly. Miss Kelly didn't come to the Justice and Beyond Forum. Miss Kelly didn't come to the WBOK Forum. And if I want to know about a candidate, I'd like to see that candidate. I'd like to hear from that candidate. And she did not take advantage for whatever reason. As far as their backgrounds and records are concerned, I said, like I said once, I think he who has, is without sin, cast the first stone. So you can forgive people. Certainly Oliver was forgiven. He was elected. And I think we can do the same with these ladies. But my point is, Kelly didn't show her face at Justice and Beyond's forum, nor WBOK's forum. I don't know what she stands for. I couldn't vote for her because I don't know her. I didn't hear from her. So I'm gonna have that to say about her. Now the District 93, thank goodness, I don't live there. So I don't know what all the dirty mail was, because they only send it to voters in those areas, so I didn't partake of that, but certainly I have noticed that a change in tone in terms of the literature that's coming out now. And no, I don't appreciate it. No, I think whomever's responsible, we need to call them out as well.
Yeah. Call them out as well. Good point. Jeff, any thoughts on that?
Yes, I agree with CC 100% and what Brooks said. And I just think that it is a function of dark money. It is a function of this. They're throwing their rocks and hiding their hands. They are, you don't really know where the money's coming from. They're hiding behind PACs, and these PACs have PACs that control PACs, and it's like, a shell game. And so to truly identify where the source of the money is difficult. And people have national agendas that are different from what we, like CC said in the beginning, all politics is local. But if some national billionaire has, $500,000 to drop in the race in New Orleans to get the kind of candidate who's going to vote on one critical vote for them, they don't care about anything else. We suffer as a result of that. And so I am really concerned about this. I think the negative impacts are significant. And I'm wondering how it's going to affect people who are going to be willing to jump into the fray. I mean, I'm concerned about us being able to get new candidates. And so CC, I disagree with her a little bit about the alphabet soup organizations in this regard. One of the things that they did was they raised candidates, they groomed candidates, they taught candidates about what the issues were, they taught them how to be legislators, they brought them to the legislature, and they made sure they had pristine, clean backgrounds, and they made sure they didn't do terrible things, and they vetted them. So I think we need some training ground, and that's what they did, and so they morphed into power brokers, and it got away from the original intent. But I think some ability to, properly vet and raise new candidates is necessary.
Absolutely.
I couldn't agree more. I'm just saying that when I saw Audron's name on some alphabet soup people's
right.
ballots, I'm like, well, wait a minute now.
Right.
What y'all doing? Okay. So
right.
I'm not saying that they shouldn't do all that you said is beautiful. But when you start sneaking in people that I know that don't have our best interests, and I'm saying I'm talking about we the people, regardless of your ethnic background, you don't have our agenda in mind, but you're gonna support this person and put his picture on your, on your little flyer, I have issues. Jeff.
Yeah, I hear you. I think you're right, CC. I think you're right. Yeah, I don't disagree with that at all.
So is there a way? It seems impossible to me. I can't figure out a way. And I think Cece said, we got to track this dark money and maybe get a hold of it, if I can paraphrase a little bit. But to me, that seems nearly impossible, and maybe a little illegal. I'm not sure. So
that may be impossible, Rev, but what's not impossible is when you see certain alphabet soup people backing these candidates with all of this money, that we need to get the alphabet soup people to come and tell us, why are you taking that money?
Right.
Do you know where the money comes from?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they need to be held accountable.
That's all I'm saying.
They need to be held.
I'm talking about accountability now, and I see there's some questions in the chat box that's for Jeff, but anyway, I'm just looking for accountability.
All right.
I know
I can't
Jeff.
see it in my.
Yeah. So you see a question
phone.
for us? What's a question for Jeff? CC?
Can't see. Oh, you can't see it?
No. Yeah.
There's a long running conversation here, and I think why would dark money pick one liberal candidate over another? Our national elections have been dirty forever. Nola was late to the dirty politics. So
why would they?
I guess the question was, and then somebody said much of Devontae Lewis's money was the Environmental Defense Fund. So, and they talked about before Katrina in the school board races and others, there was dark money then too. So it's not something that's just new.
Let me just say one at a time. First of all, I will respond to that. The money that came for Devontae Lewis for the Environmental Defense Fund, that was not for Devontae Lewis. That was the PAC. There was other money that Jeff referred to that came for Devontae Lewis. And that was from the alphabet soup people. That benefited him. The money from the Environmental Defense Fund benefited
progressive candidates.
Progressive candidates, period. Not just Devontae. But the alphabet soup people, if anybody knows who we're referring to,
Norris Henderson.
Strictly benefited Devontae and was to the tune of hundreds of thousands of dollars. We won't go there. But listen,
yeah. I don't want it to sound like I'm anti-Norris Henderson. I am not. I am not in any way, shape, or form. I do want to be clear, though, that what I think we are seeing is a shift in the power dynamics in the political structure and the powers that be in the city of New Orleans. And whenever you have change is hard. People don't like change. And so I know for certain, I get calls all the time from, the power brokers of yesteryear who are currently, campaign handlers who are very upset, because they can't compete with, $500,000 just dropped right in. And this pact is not working with them. So I think what we're witnessing is a shift in power dynamics. Listen, I'm just an observer. However it goes, it's going to go. I'm going to support the candidates that I believe in, and hopefully they win. But I know for certain that we are seeing it and having boots on the ground. And it's not really being reported in mainstream media. They haven't caught up yet. You guys are, I'm telling you, on the cutting edge of this information in this forum here tonight, because they just are unaware. We can catalog the wins of vote of the experience, voice of the experience. I mean, their first big win was Susan Hudson when she beat Marlon Guzman for sheriff, and then Devontae Lewis, and then now recently, just Saturday, Marissa, not Marissa Huddebert. What is her name? Why am I? the two judges that won. Well, Leon Roche and Alonzo
Sybil
Knox.
Bridges?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no, right. So, what's happening is they are just picking off, though, vulnerable candidates, and that's the thing from my perspective that I think is questionable. What they're doing is, if now the vulnerability has different terms. I'll give you a great example. In the Public Service Commission, I think the Public Service Commissioner who was defeated was not doing a good job, not at all. And that money went against him. I was happy to see it. I just am unhappy with where the money wound up. But my point, though, is that these guys have unlimited resources and are able to push up candidates. Now, I hope Devontae Lewis does a great job. He's not from New Orleans. He seems progressive. He seems like he's the things that I've heard him say since he's been elected endear me to him. And I'm hopeful that he is going to be the kind of public service commissioner that we need in that seat. He's he's only going to be 2 votes against 5. So there's not much that he'll be able to do because the commission is stacked with conservative Republicans. Yeah. It's a non-winning, but they can introduce competition. They can lobby. They can introduce legislation. They can introduce rules, and they can lobby their members, the commissioners, to maybe make a change. So I'm hopeful that he's able to do it. But I am just concerned that, these guys have this unlimited money, and I'm not sure how they vet candidates. I'm not sure what their process is. And that is the only thing that makes me a little concerned. But listen, they have every right to do what they do. And I'm just watching to see what happens.
So Jeff and CC both, did y'all say is what you're seeing, because you're more familiar with the trends and the landscape across the nation? Are you indicating that what we're seeing with the dark money is not happening as much in other national elections? You see it happening more here, or is it happening just as much? Is it the trend everywhere?
Well, as I understand, it's been happening in the national elections, but I'm saying that, I'm seeing a proliferation now here in our races in New Orleans now. And I think Raymond Sweet asked Jeff's opinion. He said he already shared his opinion on Thing 504, but he'd be interested in what others think about the piece Jeff wrote about vote. What did you say, Jeff?
Yeah, I encourage everybody to go to Think 504. I wrote a couple of pieces, one leading up to the election and one post-election analysis, but I'm kind of talking about it today. And that is that we're seeing a new sheriff in town. And since we have a new sheriff, maybe that's inappropriate. But we are seeing, I think, a shift in dynamics and a shift in the powers that be. But also, having talked to, just today, I had conversations with, if I said the names, these are power brokers of today who run candidates, run campaigns, and they are, sulking a little bit, nursing their wounds. But also, they are strategizing on how to attack this new dark money. And if we can just talk frankly, Norris Henderson was a convicted murderer, and Bruce Riley is a convicted murderer. These are facts. I'm not in any way disparaging the acts of these men, but these two guys are the face of vote. Now, the question is that they raise to me is, are these guys going to be the face of politics in New Orleans going forward? Because these are the guys who are the arbiters of, these are the guys who get all of the money. Norris is a Soros fellow. And listen, I like Norris. Don't get it wrong. I talked to him. I mean, he's a little upset with me these days, but I'm sure he's gonna let me have it the next time we have lunch. Well, but my question is the optics of it. How far is that going to go? How much? Right now, they're able to, like I said, throw rocks and hide their hands. They've won some pretty impressive races. They are winning races, but also they've been doing so from the shadows. As the light is exposed on them, as they have to come to the forefront, I wonder if their influence is going to be as significant, or if they're able to win races because of their backgrounds. Listen, each of them did their time. Each of them is out of jail. Norris claims to have been wrongfully convicted. Bruce apologized for his acts, and we'll see how successful they'll be. And I'm just watching to see how this is going to play out.
Thank you, Jeff. Before we take questions from everybody else, I know we've been taking some, but in the last 15 minutes before Jeff has to go, I want to turn to the recall for just a moment. Analysis, CC, of the recall and what happened, where we're at now, where it may have gone wrong. Was it doomed from the beginning? Whatever. What's going on with the recall?
Well, the recall failed, and I'm sure we've all seen the news about Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck and all of their cohorts vote, signing the recall signatures. I just think that listen, the mayor has made a lot of mistakes, granted. My issue is, as a voter, I can't speak for anybody else. I want the pillars to have their say. But my issue is, if the people re-elected this woman, and she has until 2025, whatever, why are you allowing people with $1 million to come in here and decide they're gonna buy my vote? And say, you know what? And I told Jeff this, and he didn't understand. I feel like my vote was being nullified for the simple reason, whether I voted for her or not. I went to the polls and I voted. She won. Okay, now what? What has she done that's so grievous? All the nitpicking they're doing, surveilling her. I think it's very nasty. And I think the fact that Drew Brees' partner, Rick Farrell, whomever he is, poured in 500,000, then another 500,000. They didn't even get the amount of signatures. They didn't even get the signatures they needed. And from what I understand, it's like 3 people that have grievances with the mayor that decided, okay, let's get her out of here. Drew Brees didn't get the project out there in New Orleans East, and that set it off. They were the white business community, probably some Black businesses were upset because she would not open up this town after that influx of COVID that Mardi Gras brought us. I'm just saying, people were upset. So you're upset, that's one thing, but it's another thing for you to pour money into a campaign to get rid of a duly elected official. If that becomes the norm, then what? If that becomes the norm, that I can just get 500,000, like Jeff is saying, dark money. This wasn't dark money. This was out front in the light money. But the fact is, have money buying my vote. No, I'm not going for that. And have money paying to get rid of a duly elected official. I think that that's scandalous. That's just me.
Yeah.
And they failed. They didn't get the first. Carl Ardoin said, well, the law says 53,000. Next thing I know is 46,000. Next thing I know is 43,000 signatures you needed. And then I don't know what it ended up being, but they didn't get enough signatures. And then they had the audacity to not just turn in the signatures they got, but the second tranche of signatures was a duplicate of the original. Come on now. This is not Mickey Mouse time here. These are legitimate elected officials. Now, I'm not a fan of Sandra Wilson's either, because she has not, well, not just she, but the city council has not taken the power over early voting back from the state since Katrina. So I'm not a fan of any of them. I'm just saying, you know, two wrongs don't make a right.
Thank you, CC. Jeff.
Yeah, I agree with everything CC said. And I'll only add that I think the other thing that was exposed is, from the state level, our voting rights seem to be whimsically approached. We can just make deals about them and not make deals and not explain it. There was no transparency. That is concerning. But then also, I wonder if Sandra Wilson is doing her job accurately. If we got 25,000 people who don't live here anymore, or who have died, or some combination of the two, our rolls need to be accurate. We need to know how many people live here. We're saying, oh, we only had 10% turnout. Well, maybe it's 30% because we don't have accurate rolls. And additionally, you know, as a person who does occasionally work with some campaigns, you're buying lists and you're spending money mailing to dead people or mailing to people who don't live there anymore. That's problematic. So I think the good thing of the recall is that we need to address. I think I'd love to see Justice and Beyond form a committee. I'd be willing to help. And CC is going to be writing about this for Think 504. And, you know, we're going to be exploring just, you know, our voting rolls. We need to know. We need accurate voting rolls in this city and state.
Yeah.
And it's a slippery slope. Listen, you start talking about taking away people's voting rights, Black people they get pulling out their guns, rightfully so, because, you know, I mean, our vote can be taken away at any time, right? You can overturn which amendment is it? The 18th Amendment, which gives Black people the right to vote. It can go away at any time. Every 40 years, it has to be renewed. So our right to vote is built into the Constitution and can be taken away from the Constitution because Black people aren't. Well, I'm sorry, I'm off on a tangent. My point is that we need to ensure, though, that despite the sensitivity surrounding accuracy of voting rights in this city, we need to have accurate accurate voting rolls, I think.
Absolutely. Thank you both for
I
your.
agree with that too, but guess what? I don't know if Carlisle Dwan is telling the truth about that, you know, and I just see there's been a bill that's been pre-filed in the legislature to have a supplemental purge, if you will, a supplemental inspection. So that's what, 2 purges a year? I don't know. I'm just saying, we just have to be mindful of people being purged. That's all I'm saying.
Well, that's right.
And I don't know if Carlisle Dwan is telling the truth or not, given his unethical behavior. So yeah.
Yeah. Let me turn to the questions. I know Jeff's got to go in about what, 6:15, Jeff?
Yes.
Okay. Valerie, you there? Maybe not.
Valerie went on to her other meeting.
Okay, Brooke. So you see
Yeah.
the question from that people have. If you have questions, you may signify to us by raising your hand, or you may write it in the chat, and we'll ask it asked to CC.
Okay.
Or
I know that Lane has a question, has for a while. Are you still there, Lane?
I'm going to defer. We don't have much time, and I'm going to defer to Betty.
Okay, Betty, go for it.
All of this is really concerning to me, and Jeff saw me laughing. And one of the things I was laughing about is that when I went back to school 15 years ago, I ran across George Soros and started researching him. And it was about that time that he started backing, I think he backed some money with Clinton. And so I'm not sure that I dislike the fact that a wealthy person like George Soros is funding a project for vote. I mean, he's trying to flip everything so that we start looking at our democracy again. So I guess my question for Jeff is, do you have a problem with George Soros, period? And listen, dark money, we had so much dark money coming in here for the school board race in 2016, and maybe even before that I started trying to trace myself. And y'all, it was Obama supporters that wanted our charter schools. And so it's real complicated, and we're going to have to all start thinking about who we're voting for, trying to get more than 10% of the people to go vote. That's another tragedy.
It was
That-
Bush. It was
Yeah,
Bush. It was on
anyway.
before Obama.
Yeah, Jeff.
Anyway,
Go-
Jeff,
yeah.
that's just my question to Jeff. Is there a problem with Soros money coming in here for Sheriff Hudson or for Boat or?
Listen, if my friend Pastor Greg Manning had gotten that Soros money, I'd be tickled pink. So if it goes to the people I like, I'm happy about it, right? But I make a joke to make a point. My point is that I think it's relative. I think it's how the money is used, and I'm concerned about the application of the money and the way it's used. I don't think that the money is. I don't know. Let me rephrase that. I'm not certain that the money has been used in the way that it is intended by the funders, and that's my concern. I think that the funders, what you described, Betty, is. I love it. Absolutely. I think we need more progressive money in this town. I think we need more progressive stuff. I'm just concerned, though, that in the last few applications, it went against, just in this last race, it went against people who you might also consider to be progressive. And so if it were my candidates, I might be happier about it. So I just, it's nuanced, I guess.
All right. Thank you, Betty. Thank you for that response, Jeff. Brooke, we got another question?
Well, we have lots of sort of half questions. I don't know. Does anyone have something they're want to be asking? I do, of course, but Lane, go for it.
Yeah, my biggest problem, Citizens United did more to destroy this country and our democracy than almost anything in that since it was enacted. And it's now put up a bulwark so that we can't say, well, no, we don't go for that. In New Orleans, we're going to pass a law that says you got anybody who contributes, to a political action committee, blah, blah, blah. We can't say that because of the bulwark of the Supreme Court decision. But my biggest problem with dark money is that anybody who puts a lot of money into any issue has an issue. They have a perspective. And the biggest problem, and I think you've already said this, Jeff, and maybe you did too, CC, is that you don't know where they're coming from, what they're really after. And it might be very noble and very high-minded, but who knows? And and by the way, if you think there hasn't been dark money that's come in to our legislature,
Forever.
Yeah. Anyway, I just wanted to make that point. Sorry.
Thank you, Lane.
Lane, I think you make great points. Absolutely. I'm sorry, Pastor.
No. Go ahead. Anything else?
Yeah,
Well,
Jeff.
Go
Okay.
ahead. No, I was just gonna say I got like 4 minutes, but I did send. I can't figure out how to put the link to the live stream to this event, but I texted you, Pastor Manny. So
Okay.
if you could put it in the chat for me, that'd be great. So if you guys want to view it, you'll be able to.
Right. So Jeff, I just have one quick question to know how, if we were grooming candidates before to be squeaky clean, how did we end up with such a corrupt state? I don't understand. This doesn't make,
Right.
it doesn't equal,
Right.
2 and 2 don't
Right.
equal the right numbers.
Right. Yeah. Well, statewide, I think we have had, I think the way the government is structured, we have the state is structured with a strong governor. The city is structured, the city charter gives you a strong mayor. So because of the structure of the way we structure government, it lends itself to that kind of corruption. It lends itself to powerful governors who can influence something just
Absolutely.
because they have the power to do so. Same with the mayor. Now, in the city of New Orleans, we're ratcheting some of that back, right? We now have, the city council has power to approve the police chiefs and department heads
Yeah.
because of that.
Yeah.
So I think our structure has been off. Most other states are not structured like we are. So that's
Right.
part of it.
Good. Thank you. I think that's a good analysis of what's going on. It needs to go further.
And Brooke, I just sent you that link that Jeff sent me because I couldn't figure out how to put it in the chat either. So maybe you could.
I believe Raymond Sweet already
Yeah.
put it in the chat for
He
everybody.
did, he did. It
Oh,
is,
great.
put a huge amount of information, including the live stream and where to go.
Thank you, Raymond.
Thank you, Raymond.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Raymond.
Raymond.
And
And
Jeff,
thanks
I-
for always commenting on my website too, Raymond. And you guys, I would love if you guys commented whenever you go to Think 504. It always makes me feel better and helps me understand how you are receiving it.
Very good.
So while
Jeff,
you're at it, let's just
leave us-
find out how we're gonna how we're gonna deal with the dark money, Jeff, and
Yeah.
Reverend Mandy, and Justice and Beyond.
Expose, expose, expose.
Jeff needs to go. So let's have Jeff give us a closing remarks, some words of wisdom to leave us with, and we'll have CC.
The pressure. Oh my goodness. I don't know how much wisdom I can give you. I can just tell you what I think. I think that this new cycle of, to everybody's point, we've had dark money. We've had, major contributors to different campaigns over the years. This is a little different because it's national money. And like Lane said, we don't know what their real agendas are. They could be, electing Devontae, and this is just an example. They could be electing Devontae Lewis for one particular issue, and they don't care what happens for the rest of his term. And so I want us to be able to have great candidates. I want us to be able to train candidates. I think a big part of what Justice and Beyond does is help inform people. And I would love to see, I'm giving you more work, Pastor and Brooke. I would love, and all the pillars, I would love to see you guys train young candidates, get candidates, teach them what the issues are so that they can, in fact, come without flaws and knowing the issues and being prepared and coming on and speaking to people and being able to be qualified, good candidates that will electrify the electorate and get more than 10% coming out to vote. So, whatever I can do in that regard, I'm willing to do for sure too. And I'm walking.
All right.
Truck here. If you need me, I want to just keep listening. I'm gonna mute myself, so I want to interrupt.
All right, we appreciate it, Jeff. Thanks for being here. Thanks for all you do. And let me go to CC. Give us some closing remarks, words of wisdom, CC.
What you say, Ralph?
Give us your closing remarks. What do you want to leave us with?
What I want to leave us with is we've got a lot of work to do. We cannot allow these people to steal democracy from under us. I mean, we're going to have to be proactive. We're going to have to deal with that whole gerrymandering situation. And we need to, if we just write letters to the legislators, all of them, and say, we don't like this. Justice and Beyond has several organizations. We need to look at those pre-filed bills and just try to protect our children and try to protect our vote, because there's just a lot of shady things going on with our vote, and I'm not happy about that. So we need a decent Secretary of State. I don't know who we're going to get, maybe Justice Beyond can find somebody, you know, we can get behind. We just need good people that want to do the people's work. So
Absolutely.
that's all I have to say about that.
Wise words.
And
Thank-
I'm available to do whatever anyone asks me to do in that regard.
That's why we love you, Cece. We appreciate you so much. Thank you both to our panelists for tonight, Cece Campbell-Rock and Jeff Thomas, and all the expertise that they bring not only to this forum, but they bring to this city and this nation, really, by the work that they do.
Reverend Manager, I'm sorry. May I just say one more thing? In terms of the pre-filed bills, if you go to the Secretary of State's, you just can Google the 2023 Louisiana Legislative Session, and it's going to pop up, and you can search the pre-filed bills that the senators have, you know, put pre-filed, as well as the House. Just have to Google that.
Cece, that's on the Secretary of State's website?
No, it's really on, it's just what I did was I keyed in the 2023 Louisiana Legislative Regular Session, and it popped up. And I think it's on I don't think it's on his is it on his website?
I
Or
doubt
is it on one of the Senate or the House of Representatives? I can't remember now, but do that.
Well, I Googled it just as you did, and I put the link that I found that includes the pre-filed bills, but it also has the ones that are withdrawn and ones that are still
Okay,
active
good.
from 22. I
Good.
put that in the chat, so if you guys
Right, I
want,
saw it.
find
And
you know, save the
I
chat.
did see it. I did see it. I had
All
it
right. Thank you, Lane.
somewhere.
Thank you, Cece. All right, everybody. Let's close with any actions that you think, you know, Cece recommended some stuff, any actions that we can take together. You know, sometimes forming a subcommittee is helpful. Maybe it's just as simple as writing a letter. Maybe it's as simple as holding another forum that brings people together to discuss the greater issues. Any actions that we want to take away from this discussion tonight?
You know, Pastor Manning, this is Betty. I think one of the big things for me was the lack of voters and the lack of people voting. And I think Justice and Beyond needs to start reminding all of our members. I don't know how large our email list is, but we can do it on Facebook, which is an action that we can take, because it's very disturbing to me that 10% of the voters in the 93 district and in the city election. And I don't know how, you know, only people who are interested are voting. And I don't know, it might be a good discussion for us even to have with, we've already heard young people aren't voting because they think it's totally irrelevant. The issues that our age are concerned with, they're like, forget it, guys. We got a lot more important things to do. So it would be interesting to find out, I think, number one, how do we get people out to vote? And Jeff's right. We need to look at the voter rolls. Back in 2016, when David Alvarez ran for school board and I worked with him, I started driving around our district that Carlos Zerbergon runs now. And there were actually voters on empty pieces of property. There was no homes there. That was in 2016. Katrina was in 2005, guys. That was 11 years later. And I was very disturbed by it. And David said, please don't start causing chaos in the middle of this election. But I don't think that has ever been remedied, to be honest with you. I mean, I would wonder how many vacant lots we still have people registered to vote on that messed up the numbers. So anyway, sorry, I went on. I didn't mean to do that.
Well, I noticed that Attorney Shawana Bernard was on this call. I think she's with the Lower Ninth Ward Voters Coalition. Could Justice and Beyond get with her and similar groups, ACLU, whomever, call everyone to the table. We need to get the young people, and I think they work with high schools. I know Walter Goodwin was reaching out, at the former principal, reaching out to young students, seniors, trying to get them registered. Do we need a voter registration drive? That's the way the NAACP used to do it back in the day. You
She
know,
goes
break out
into
some
the
hot
schools.
dogs and chili or something.
And that,
Shawan goes
Have a little
into,
mini festival up there at Broadmoor Community Church, and if you vote, you get a hot dog.
yeah,
Shawan goes into the high schools for every,
Right.
yeah.
I wanted
But
Is
to
it
ask-
possible? Is it possible even to do say a youth voter summit that she can pull together and get some of these young people to come in and
well, we
and
did,
we
we
can
did
talk
have some,
to-
yeah.
Well, we can certainly talk about that. And I think, you know, to have a dialogue about what young people, how they feel about voting, to get to the heart of the matter, is very appropriate at this time. We can't just continue to talk about why they're not voting. We have to hear from them as to how they're feeling about the present state of things, and why they don't see the significance of voting. So I'd be
We
willing to
might
vote.
have to get them on a bus and bring them up there to Baton Rouge and let them look at some of these sessions. You
Yeah.
might get interested then too.
That's right. Yeah.
I have one more thing that I've been dying to ask everybody in Louisiana for years, and that is, to me, it seems as though having all these gazillion elections throughout a year are part of a Jim Crow carryover, right? So why has anybody ever tried to go to the Board of Elections and have this changed? So that there's 1 or 2 elections a year at the most? That has been tried, Cece?
I'm not aware that it has, but I think it's something that should be done, because as I said, to respond to you in the chat, that's intentional,
Yes.
so that fewer and fewer people will turn out to vote. I mean, and fewer people will know that all of these off-election days are there. Who really knew
Exactly.
that we were voting Saturday?
Right.
That's what I'm saying. You can't keep up with them. It's too many.
There are
So I
too
would-
many, and it's crazy, and it
So whatever
certainly,
we can do, you know, maybe
Yep.
we need to talk to the ACLU about that as well. And what's other groups, all these other groups that we have, Together New Orleans, this, that, and the third, what, y'all know, some Power Coalition, all these people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. Let's change the laws and get it done differently. I totally
Yeah.
agree. So we're taking note, and we're gonna move on some stuff. So, but for now, we got to have some closing announcements, and then close with a prayer. Does anybody have any announcements about any current events or activities or things that we need to be aware of to get involved?
Well, next week, Justice and Beyond is not meeting, and we are having a potluck at Broadmoor Church starting at 5 o'clock. So if you would like to join us for the potluck, you're more than welcome. And I think there is a forum someplace to let people know what you are bringing that we should have posted on the website. I mean, that during the meeting, but I'll see if I can't find it, and we can send it out to on Facebook.
All right. Thank you, Betty. Please join us for that. Hope to see everybody. Invite friends, especially new people who have never been to Justice and Beyond. We want to bring them in. Any other announcements? All
Yeah,
right.
this is Liz. Hi, pardon me, Reverend Manning. This is Liz. I'd like to, first thing I'll do is shout out for Raymond mentions Casa New Orleans he put it in the chat and I'll say it out loud, to Casa New Orleans needs volunteers. So please go to their website to sign up, and we'll put that in the newsletter again, Raymond, to remind people. And then everybody, please come to the potluck next Monday. It's going to be fun. It's going to be social. It's not going to be about business. It's going to be about having a good time and just enjoying each other's company and seeing each other in person. And the thing that I have to announce as well is that tonight On PBS at 9 p.m. is a documentary called The Precipice, and it's about southern Louisiana land loss. And I think it's really important for people to see. I'm pretty sure that it's brand new. It's 9 o'clock on channel 12 is the broadcast channel, or WYES, whatever your PBS main channel is. That's what it is.
All right. Thank you, Elizabeth. Anybody else? All right. Hearing none, we're going to go ahead and close this meeting out with a word of prayer. Do I have anybody that wants to volunteer to lead us in that closing prayer?
Sure, I'll do that.
Thank you.
God of love, justice, peace, and hope, we pray, oh God, that you would provide us with the things we need to keep fighting and looking at the mountain, seeing how big it is that we need to climb. Help us, oh God, to find in you the ways and the means to climb the mountain. We ask these things in your name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Brother Jeff. All right, everybody. Y'all have a good night. Be safe. Be kind to each other. And we'll see you at the potluck on Monday.
What time?
5 o'clock.
At the
I
church.
put the invitation in the chat if anyone wants to see it.
Okay, cool.
All right. All right. Hope to see you there, CC. Bye-bye. Thanks, everybody.